Welcome back, YouTubers. My name is Natalka, and you are in my very messy kitchen right now. So I've been in my kitchen all day, just baking up a storm. And this is what I've made today. A fantastic pina colada cake. I am really excited to show you guys this. It turned out so beautifully. It smells amazing. As I was baking it, I tried different parts of it. It is delicious. I can't wait to cut into it and actually try it all together. So that is what is on the agenda for today, is showing you guys how to make a pina colada cake. Once you watch the whole video, then I will show you what it looks like on the inside. I'll cut it open and give it a try. So let's get to it and start baking. The first thing I'm going to do is measure out my egg whites. So I need about 350 to 355 grams, or it works out to be about 5 to 6 large egg whites. Next, I'm going to add 1 cup of unsalted butter to my mixer, and I'm going to let that start mixing just to soften it up. While my butter is mixing and getting softer, I'm going to mix all the dry ingredients together. So I have 3 cups of cake flour mixed with 1 3/4 cups of sugar. I'm then going to add 4½ teaspoons of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Whisk that all together and then set it aside for a few minutes. All right, back to the egg whites. So I'm going to whisk them a little bit, get them all frothy, and I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of unsweetened coconut milk to the egg whites. The rest of the coconut milk, so it's 1 full can of coconut milk that I'm using, but the rest of it, I'm just going to set it aside for a few minutes because I don't want to add too much to the egg whites. So mix that together. I'm also adding just a little bit, about 1/2 teaspoon of coconut extract, just to give it a stronger coconut flavor. All right, so take the rest of the can of coconut milk and you're going to add it into your butter while it's mixing. And it will look curdled, and that's okay. It can look curdled because next we're going to add the egg white mixture and the flour mixture, alternating between the two, starting and ending with the flour, until all of that is mixed in and looks well combined. Okay, so now that everything has been added, I have taken it off my mixer and I'm just going to scrape down the sides of the bowl and mix it with my spatula just to finish mixing in any leftover flour. I don't want to do it on the mixer because I don't want to overmix it, so I'm just doing it by hand. Next, you're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're going to pour your cake batter into your cake pans. So I am using 2 9-inch pans. I have them greased and floured, but you could also do 3 8-inch pans, whichever you choose to use. I don't have 3 8-inch. I only have the 2 9-inch. Then I'm just going to tap them down on my table, swirl them around so that I can try and avoid the bump in the middle when it bakes. And then I'm going to get them in the oven, and I am going to bake them for approximately 25 to 30 minutes. And this is how they turned out after about 30 minutes of baking. All right, so while my cakes are cooling, I'm going to get my filling ready. I'm using a bag of frozen pineapple. No, it's not a store-bought frozen bag of pineapple. I had bought a fresh pineapple. I had chopped it all up and threw it in the freezer. That's what I'm using. You can use fresh or frozen, doesn't matter. But what you're going to do is put it all into a pot and you're going to cook it all down. Depending on the sweetness of your pineapple, you may need to add anywhere between 2 tablespoons to 1/4 cup of sugar just to bring out the sweetness in it. I only needed about a tablespoon, maybe 2, to mine this time. So as it cooks down, it does produce a lot of water, which is amazing. That's what you want. You want it to be watery. It's also going to get really mushy. You want to break apart all the pineapple. Once it's all broken apart and super watery, you're going to mix together 2 teaspoons of cornstarch with about 2 to 3 teaspoons of the juice from the pineapple in the pot. Pour it into the pineapple, mix it all up, and you're going to continue cooking it. Only for maybe a minute or 2. You'll notice that it thickens up fairly quick. Once it gets to that thickness that you're looking for, you're going to remove it from the heat, let it cool completely. You do not want to put a warm filling in the middle of your cake. You're asking for a disaster. So remove it from the heat, let it cool, and as it cools, it'll thicken even more into a jam texture. All right, so while the filling is cooling and the cakes are cooling, I'm going to make some toasted coconut. And this is super easy to do. You just sprinkle some coconut into a pan, no butter, no oil. You don't need to spray your pan with anything. Just put the pan on the stove and put some coconut in it. You can use shredded, flakes, whatever you prefer. It works out to be roughly half a cup to 1 cup, and you just mix it until it is all toasted and it turns white to brown, and then you know you have toasted coconut. All right, once it's all toasty, then you just remove it from the stove and let it cool. Again, let it cool completely. You don't want it to melt anything on your cake. All right, so for the icing, I am making the mock Swiss meringue buttercream. So in my mixing bowl, I have the whisk attachment and I have 6 ounces of pasteurized egg whites. I am then going to add 24 ounces of powdered sugar, a half a teaspoon of salt, and 2 teaspoons of flavoring. Today I'm using coconut extract. Mix it all together until it is really smooth and it'll be really glossy and shiny and beautiful. Remember to take the time to stop your mixer and scrape down the sides of your bowl. Once it reaches that really glossy stage, I'm going to add in 24 ounces of unsalted butter. It works out to be about 2.5 cups of butter. And I cut it up into little cubes and I just toss it in while the mixer is running. So as it mixes, it is going to look curdled, like really curdled. And that is okay. You got to trust the process. So I have my mixer. I started it on sort of a medium low and then moved it to high while it's whisking. As it comes together, as you can see, it's starting to look smooth. It doesn't look curdled. I'm going to remove the whisk attachment and put on the paddle attachment. And then I'm going to mix this on low, like the next speed up from stir on my mixer. And it's going to mix for about 20 minutes. If it still looks curdled, take about 1/3 of a cup out, melt it for 10 to 15 seconds, pour it back in, and let it keep mixing, and that should help smooth it all out. So prepping your cakes, that's what I'm going to be doing next. This part is optional. So you can do it a couple different ways. You can either do a 2-layered cake, just the way they are, just level off the tops. You could do, if you're using the 3 cake pans where you did them all in 8-inch, you could do like a 3-layered cake. What I'm going to do today is a 4-layered cake. So I'm going to take each of my cake layers, my 2 cake layers. I'm going to level off the tops, and then I'm also going to slice them in half so that it creates 4 cake layers. All right, so my icing is ready to be used. Just a little tip for you. If your icing is not white enough, if you're going for white, and it still has a yellow tint to it, add just a tiny little bit of purple coloring to it. And that will offset the yellow and make it turn white. Just a tiny bit, like only put tiny little bits in at a time so that you don't turn your icing purple, unless you're going for purple. All right, so my icing is smooth and ready. So now I'm going to take it and put it into a piping bag. I'm ready to put this cake together. So on the first layer, I'm going to take my icing and I'm going to pipe a border all the way around it. Then I'm going to put just the thinnest layer into the middle of the cake, like super thin, paper thin. Once I've spread that out, then I'm going to add a little bit of the pineapple filling. Now remember, with your pineapple filling, you got to make sure you have enough for all of your layers. So put a little bit of your pineapple filling in and spread it all out until it reaches the little border that you made. And you're going to repeat this process until all your layers are done. All right, so next, you're just going to ice your cake. So put icing all the way around the sides, use a knife, whatever you want to use, and you're going to spread it all out and make it smooth. Unless you're going for sort of a rough look, then do it however you'd like. The top of my cake, I forgot to hit the record button when I did it, so I'm not able to show you guys how to put the swirl on top. But what I did is I put icing on the top. I put a fairly decent layer of it on, a pretty thick layer, and then I just held my knife sort of at an angle, and as I twirled my cake plate, I just dragged the knife across from the center out to the edge, and it created like a swirl on top. The next part of decorating the cake that I decided to do is put little mounds of icing around the top of it. And as you can see, I have a little piece of cake where I have already tested like 7 different types of little icing mounds that I wanted to make. And then I picked my favorite one. So I'm going to put the little mounds equally around the top of the cake. And my husband helped me with this one as he pointed it out to me while I was doing them so I wouldn't be crooked and have them off-centered or anything. So I did that. And then I also have maraschino cherries. And I wanted to do the cocktail cherries because they have the little stems on them. But when my husband picked them up at the store, he couldn't find them. So maraschino cherries it is. And I picked out the best ones out of the jar, the ones that were like the biggest and the roundest. I used paper towel and I dried them all off because I didn't want all that water, all that juice running all over the cake. So I dried them all off and let them sit on the paper towel for a while. And then what I'm going to do is use them and put them on top of each of the little mounds of icing. Last step in decorating my cake. I'm going to put my toasted coconut around the center of the cake. I'm going to put on a fairly thick layer of it so that it's really nice and crunchy on top. But I'm also going to take my toasted coconut and I'm going to very carefully try and put it around the bottom of my cake too. It's going to make such a mess, and it is definitely harder to do than what it looks. But I'm going to squish it on the best that I can and clean up my cake plate, and that's it. My cake is all done. I am ready to cut it and see how it actually turned out. All right, now for the real test. Cut the cake, take the piece out and put it on a plate and see if it holds up, which it does. It holds its shape beautifully. The layers look amazing. It smells amazing. And I can't wait to eat this. Oh my gosh, you guys, look how beautiful this turned out. You can see all the layers. They're not too thick. They're not too thin. I think it turned out absolutely perfect. Now, I haven't tasted it yet, so that's the next try. Let's see how it tastes. It's delicious. It tastes just like I am drinking a pina colada. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Oh, I really hope you guys will give this recipe a try because it is fantastic. It's light and it would be such a great dessert for spring and summer events, barbecues. It's awesome. I love it. I'm so glad I made it. And I did change it a little bit here and there, but I'm so happy I gave it a try. All right, so that's it for today's recipe. Remember to hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell, and I will see you guys all for my next video.